Okay. All right.
Recording.
All right. So why don't you tell me a bit about who you are and what kind of work you do?
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Michael van Soest, and the journey that I've been on in life, overcoming many different health concerns, has led me to become a clinical hypnotherapist. And so with that, I've been able to really be able to help other people with their transformation and helping them elevate to new levels. So yeah.
Okay. Do you want to maybe describe a bit of the personal troubles that you went through to lead you in this direction?
Yeah, definitely. So in my early 20s, I ended up having quite an incredible experience with health. And what happened was
Mm.
I was battling with anxiety, depression, and it was at such a level where my heartbeat was actually going out of rhythm,
Mm.
and also my kidneys and bladder were malfunctioning due to my adrenal glands being completely, I guess, depleted all the time. And with my body being in such a high level of stress, I, I went for, many different health exams and different tests, and gone through different studies of what's taking place. And unfortunately, I didn't really get an answer. It was all the tests came back fine. However, it was debilitating at some times because I couldn't even go, hang out with friends without just being freaked out and an anxiety and having panic attacks. And of course, at that age, early 20s, when you can't go and enjoy yourself and live a normal, balanced life, it definitely takes a toll.
Mm.
At that time, I was slowly beginning to increase my personal medication, more so self-medicating with alcohol,
Oh, yeah.
drugs, marijuana, and also tobacco. And all these things were just a way to fill myself from the outside in. Trying to take my mind off of the emotions and the intense experiences I was having inwards. Of course, that didn't help with my health at all either. That just spiraled things downhill even further. And at some point, I realized that I wasn't always like that. Growing up in my childhood, I was pretty calm. I was quite a happy kid, and especially between the age of 3 and 7, I was quite happy. I was quite balanced, and so I started asking myself really important questions of what went wrong, what happened. And that really led me to evaluate my whole childhood, growing up, going through high school, into early adulthood. And, just when I thought that it was almost impossible to change and, like I would have to live with these things for the rest of my life, I found out certain solutions. And just to pause and go back to going through all the tests and studies and going to doctors. I was in and out of the doctor's office continuously, and they had a certain approach that they're able to help me realize that, hey, I might need to be on medications for the rest of my life. Or they're very quick to prescribe me on anxiety medication and start experimenting with different medications, see what helped, see what doesn't. I was finding that the medication and prescriptions were just making me worse. They weren't really helping, and I knew, that was not going to fix an issue. You're adding chemicals to the body when we can already generate any emotion. So I knew that wasn't the option, and so I walked away from that all, and I was stepping back into the evaluation of my life. What I found was there were certain key events and situations in my life that really changed my awareness, changed my perspective in a more fearful and negative way. And over time, that built up. It caused anxiety. I was becoming an adult, early 20s, and I was overwhelmed with anxiety, overwhelmed with stress. And so there was a process that took place, a momentum. And I started researching all about consciousness. I got into spiritual philosophy. I got into different conscious philosophies. I was reading books and studying information from the early 1900s, some of the brilliant minds on psychology, etc. And eventually I came to a realization that it wasn't so much conscious work that I needed to dive in, but subconscious. And I came across some amazing people along the way, some shamans, some indigenes, and healers, and really showed me different ways of accessing the subconscious. And eventually, I came in contact with a clinical hypnotherapist. We did multiple sessions, and I ended up changing more in 5 months than I did in 5 years. And so there's something to that, and I just couldn't get enough of it. Right, I was starting to experience amazing results. I was feeling calmer. I was feeling more balanced. I had more motivation and a higher drive and motivational level to to have a better life. And so my depression, completely began to dissolve and clear away. My anxiety started to balance out. And I wanted to know everything I possibly could at that time. So
Mm.
I went to school just for personal development. I took all the levels that I possibly could in clinical hypnotherapy. I became certified, registered, and I was doing more self hypnosis on myself. Along the way, I found out, doing sessions for my friends and family, they were starting to, see how, hey, there's benefit to this. I found out I was pretty good at it, and I made a, career out of it. So that's kind of my story. Yeah.
That sounds really nice.
Yeah. Oh, and the benefit of it all is, I was able to drop all of my bad habits. So, it's been about 5 years since I smoked tobacco. It's 5 years since I smoked marijuana. I don't drink at all anymore. I'm just living an abundant, beautiful, thriving life. It's
That sounds great. I'm
yeah.
uh, I'm interested. You brought up self-hypnosis. Can you describe what? Because that's kind of confusing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we do go in and out of hypnosis many times in a day. And another title for hypnosis just means trance. And so a lot of people do get kind of confused or are unaware of what hypnosis actually is. And
Mhm.
it's just a state of trance. And we have three natural states to our waking, or we have three natural states to our mind. We have the waking state, the sleeping state, and the trance state.
Mm.
Unfortunately, as we grow up, we become out of tune with that trance state. That the trance state is equivalent of daydreaming, of really being in a visualization mode, of pretending, of just having fun, and almost it's in that really relaxed state where the mind can explore more of its extended senses. And so this is a trance like state that also connects us with our emotions quite deeply. And as we are going through school, it's like, hey, stop daydreaming, you need to study. And so we became slowly conditioned that uh the only two good states that you need to be aware of are the waking state and sleeping state. And don't lose track of those two states. If you go into trance, you're wasting your time. But in actuality, it's a really, really, really important state. It connects us with our emotions, and being connected with our emotions, that is technically diving into more of a self hypnosis, going into a self trance state, self induced trance state. And so being able to go into your emotions on a deeper level, then you could ask yourself questions. And when you do drop into those lower brainwave states, and I'll be talking about theta brainwave state and also the alpha brainwave state. Those are more the natural brainwave states that are at the trance induced state. The beta is, the waking state, just like we're talking right now. And the
Mm.
delta is a dreamless sleep. So we're not dreaming at all. We're just out cold. And so being able to dive into this self hypnosis, there's many different tools, there's many different techniques. There, for example, deepened meditation, people could get really accustomed to deepened meditation and tune into their emotions really well. Explore the emotion in a type of self-inquiry, questioning basis. And then we also can use different outside tools like plant medicines. That's another way to put us into an altered state or a trance-like state.
Hmm.
Like psilocybin, LSD, marijuana, all those are tools to help drop us out of the active beta brainwave more into the alpha and the theta. One thing to note though, psychedelics are quite unstable. And so if you really want to get specific and tune into the subconscious and a certain emotion, it's really difficult to actually solve it when you're on plant medicines. Yeah, plant medicines will show you everything, they'll really ignite everything within you. But to actually, work through it and integrate it, it's a different, it's not the best for that.
I see.
Yeah. So self-hypnosis, I use different types of meditation and also trance journaling. So I put myself in a really relaxed, deepened state, and then I'll start to journal, just write down words and get very clear and specific. So it's, yeah.
Hmm. So it's yeah, because normally when people think about hypnosis, they're thinking about, someone lying back in the chair and then maybe some like slow talking and stuff. But when you're talking about self-hypnosis, it's more just about the trance state and using that to your advantage, I would say, right? Is that, did I
Yeah.
understand you?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, exactly. And to also add, hypnosis, when a therapist, like a hypnotherapist, is doing hypnosis with another person, or are doing hypnosis to another person, it's really about allowing that client or the customer to be in that relaxed space, and then using therapeutic techniques as they're in that really relaxed trance space.
Mm.
And that will kind of help them open up the underlying root causes, because often we're so caught up in the mind that we cannot synchronize properly with the emotions. And our emotions really rule all of everything. They rule our thoughts, they rule our actions, our motivation. And so our emotions are really important. So if you can't synchronize fully and completely with the emotion, then you're just going to be thinking about something and not actually getting to the root cause. So that's where hypnotherapy comes in, putting someone in a state of trance, and then also using therapeutic techniques to help, uncover the root causes, understanding why their body is generating those emotions, which is key.
Okay, so say I came to you with an anxiety problem. What kind of, like, how would that look if in under those circumstances? Would you try to maybe ask me about things in my childhood, or would it, like, where would you start with that?
Well, it's yeah. To first start, it's always good to understand, what's happening in the person's life, what they're experiencing with the anxiety. What are their behaviors around the anxiety. So really understanding and getting a clear perspective of what they're going through. And once I kind of have a better understanding, then it's more or less helping them go into a trance state, so helping them calm into that anxiety emotion. And when they're a lot more synchronized with that emotion, then I'll usually ask more questions about, where in the body is this anxiety coming from? Where in the body do you feel it the most? What is there another emotion attached to that anxiety? And so I'll go through a process of really beginning to identify more and more about the anxiety, because there may be different types of anxiety. There may be different emotional attachments to that anxiety. And eventually, it really all depends. Like, you could go many directions with how to get to the root cause. I usually will never really ask right away, oh, hey, how is your relationship with your dad? Or how's the relationship with your mom? It's more or less allowing the emotion to tell the story, allowing the anxiety to tell the story. And when they're in that trance-like state, the therapeutic techniques and the tools that I've built up over the years, I've been able to really help navigate them to get to the root cause very organically and efficiently. And eventually, yeah, you always want to get to the very beginning point of where that anxiety began, because it's the idea of, if you have an emotion, and an emotion like anxiety has been with you for many, many, many years, over time, there may be a momentum that builds up. And as we do experience an emotion, our mind will be perceiving based upon that emotion. And the more we perceive based upon that emotion, the more validation and the more our mind's going to look out for those things to validate for us to be in that emotion. So, on the end of where we are today, let's say the emotion's been there for 10 years. Looking at it today, it might seem like this massive emotion, this huge problem, and it's a lot more difficult to deal with. But if you go back to the very beginning of where the emotion first began, why your body decided to generate that anxiety in the first place, then it looks very small. It's a simple perspective that may have triggered that anxiety to first come up. And bringing a person to the original point, or the beginning point, at least close to, doesn't have to be the exact point, but close to. And the person will always know, our subconscious has this in recording intelligence, that it knows the exact point of which something began. And and so bringing a person back to that initial point, then it's as easy as, oh, well, this is where it came from, or this is who I picked it up from. This anxiety came from that perspective that someone shared with me. And it could be a simple thing. And then once a person realizes how easy it was to actually begin to generate that anxiety, you give them so much empowerment, that say, well, if I generated that just on that perspective, that was a perspective I could have seen that many different ways.
Mhm.
And so it gives them so much empowerment to radically change. And now that whole momentum that was built, it transmutes into something totally different. It's completely reframed. And so that's kind of the process, and how that is going to unfold. How I can navigate and help someone get to the root cause. It could come different ways. It could be, family related. It could be school related. I don't know. Everyone's unique in that sense.
All right. Let's see. So it sounds like more working with the emotion, kind of like a dialogue with it in a way. Um,
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Using it as a guide, maybe.
yeah, a guide, exactly. Yeah. And it's the person will always have their own answers, and I think that's another thing where a lot of people do get confused with hypnosis, because they think, oh, I'm just going to say some words, click my fingers, and a person's going to be different when they awaken. But it's
Yeah.
it's not like that at all.
No.
A person has to make their own decisions, and I don't have any influence over someone else. I could say all the suggestions I want, but if a person doesn't register with it or doesn't resonate, they're just like, no, that's not for me.
Yeah.
And so it's really up to the individual to make their decisions themselves. And so it's my job, I guess, as a therapist, to help them realize that they're the one who created that emotion in the first place, and they're incredibly empowered to change that if they want to. And so that's more what I do than anything. And so it's I could ask some questions along the way to help bring up different perspectives and different awarenesses. Often that will help, but it's more or less, yeah, just getting to the initial root cause, however that has happened.
So you said, I think when we last talked, you said you've been doing it for 3 years professionally.
Professionally, yeah, yeah, I've been studying the conscious philosophies and subconscious philosophies for, gosh, since 2010 is when my journey began with that. And so professionally, yeah, I opened up a business back in I was doing it part-time 2019, but I officially opened my business the end of 2019.
Mm.
Actually 2018, I believe. So it's almost been four
Ooh.
years.
How did the lockdowns play into that? Any problems there?
Yeah, I could definitely say that. It was there was a lot of uncertainty, and for a lot of people, I feel like, and for myself included, the uncertainty brought everyone to be a lot more conservative with their dollar, with their willingness to go out and experience. And so for myself, it was growing a business. Like I started my business officially, like I didn't have any part-time jobs. I was 100%. And 2019, end of 2019, going into 2020, I was like, hey, this is going to be great. I feel like I'll do really well. And then boom, yeah, COVID hit. And
Mm,
it definitely, it hurt definitely a lot. And I can say that it was painful in that sense, because I'm like, I'm just starting a business, and already 95% of first time businesses fail within their 3 or 5 years. And I'm going in right off the bat with a very difficult economy to work with. So yeah, not a lot of people were looking for therapy on a subconscious level. Like there's lots of people that were going for psychology and counseling, because I mean, most of the time the government will cover a good chunk of the cost.
mm,
But I found out that hypnotherapy sometimes is covered, other times it's not covered. And at that time, it was not covered. So I didn't
mm.
have any support from the government to support, paying, covering some people's cost of what they would have to pay for me or anything. And so it was quite difficult. Yeah. But with that, I was able to qualify for certain grants, and that helped to bring more studying and education, and looking at the market, looking at the environment and the economy, and I was able to adapt, and also do a lot more inner work to help me, adapt. So, um, yeah.
Okay. So let's see here. I wanted to ask, is there a, is there um like we talked about anxiety, is there something that you would say is hypnotherapy in your experience is most successful at treating, and some things that it maybe shouldn't be used for? Or what do you normally see when people come to you? What are they trying to fix?
Yeah, most of the time people are trying to quit a behavior. So whether that be quitting smoking, or drinking, or overeating food, that is often the behaviors people will often come in and see me with. Otherwise, emotions. So whether it be anxiety, self-worth issues, motivational issues, people often come to me with those as well. Procrastination has been a pretty big one in the past, and anxiety as well. And so I can, confidently say that hypnotherapy works absolutely amazing with all of those. The areas where I would say hypnotherapy is not good for are when somebody begins to have really intense physical issues. And also perhaps something to do with, their blood or their body, or something that is causing, some type of flare up on a physical level that often is not good for hypnotherapy. However, saying that, I've also been able to successfully treat people with IBS and pain. So tension is no problem. So chronic pain, any type of tension, that is completely okay. I've been successful with treating that. And the whole fundamental of pain, and on a tension based level, is if you're thinking of a stressful thought, or thinking of thoughts that make you stressful, the body instantly is interrelated, interconnected, and it'll create tension.
Mm,
Now, if we have thoughts or a huge theme in our life that is just extremely stressful, or there's lots of emotions with that, we also can create and generate emotional tension. So it may be fear, it may be some type of trauma, And that will cause the body to tense up in different areas. And too much tension will often restrict the nerve flow. It might even pinch nerves along the spine. It could close down circulation and blood flow. Like people with cold hands often have a lot of tension in between the shoulder blades or the scapula. And also, the idea with meridians, traditional Chinese medicine, like our meridian lines, we have 8 essential meridian lines. And I read a book, and by the time the average human being reaches adulthood, 5 of 8 essential main meridian channels are closed off due to tension. And so, I mean, that once circulation goes out of whack, we can't efficiently send signals from the brain to the body and regulate properly. Of course, we're going to have all of our organs go out of balance. Our health is going to start to spiral downhill, and things will just take a greater toll. So, with knowing that, I have been successfully able to reverse a lot of tension, built up tension, and help someone to really completely clear up tension, but also keep it from coming back because you deal with the emotion that's causing the tension. So yeah, a little bit about that.
So you said that problems like overeating and drinking and smoking and tension, these sound like things that are caused by the subconscious to me.
Definitely. Yeah.
Like to me, when I hear about someone overeating or relying on vices like smoking and drinking, sounds like maybe trying to deal with something that is constantly troubling them or something in those regards, right? So yeah, that and tension, right? Yeah. So I guess that's a pretty good lead up to another question.
Sure.
I know you mainly said that you studied maybe psychology and subconscious beliefs. What else do we see here?
Yeah, not in university. It was more self-study because I was studying and researching for my own health, right? And so I didn't want to know how to label someone with a certain illness or diagnose. I was more of, hey, what are some practices and tools that I could do right now? So that was my self-study and understanding the tools and techniques that were available.
Okay, so what about tension and anxiety in like the modern era? Maybe with more stressful living conditions, people are kind of more pressed for time now. Do you think that's contributing, or in what way?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Probably it's an undertone, of these things, bills that are piling up and need to be paid at the end of the month, or we only have so much time and there's so much to do, and taxes are increasing, and our bills, are an inflation of food, and so there's all these things that, of course, will be in the background of our minds. We might not consciously be focusing on it most of the day, but we do know in the back of our mind that we need to keep in action. Anxiety, we do need a little bit of anxiety. Having no anxiety at all, and I've actually been there, but having no anxiety will actually keep us in a very lazy and unmotivated state. We do need a little bit of anxiety just to keep us on guard and say, oh, well, I've got some bills I need to get paid, or I need to get paid, or I need to keep active to do these certain things, or I need to, have a means of survival. And so knowing that even a little bit, not much, but enough just to keep us like, okay, I got to think about these things. Because if I don't do anything for the next, 5 years, I'm not going to be outputting to the public. I'm not going to be exchanging with people, and I'm not going to be accumulating money in that sense. I mean, not to say that there's probably some really wealthy investors, and they don't need to think about bills as much. But for regular society, the average human being, we have a job that we need to go to. People have families, kids that they need to supply to. So it's yeah, excitement. If someone could shift all the way to excitement and be driven that way, then they don't need any anxiety because that excitement will carry them through. But for the majority of us, yeah, we need a tiny, tiny bit of anxiety.
Right. I've heard kind of comparisons of musicians be like one person before they go on stage is, they're getting nerves and they're like, oh, I'm so nervous, I can't do this. And then compared to someone else who's like, oh, I'm so excited, kind of thing. So it seems like it's just a different interpretation of the same emotion in a way.
Yeah, exactly. It is when you really, take time to study the two different emotions. They're the exact same type of emotion, but anxiety is more of fear. It's, the end goal is towards fear, and
Mm.
excitement, the end goal is to, be fulfilled. And so it's kind of like the same radical rise of emotion, but one's going in one direction versus the other one's going in the other direction.
So, um, so you said that you got into studying and stuff to address problems in your own life. What was going on?
The problems in my own life. Well, for one, I was not happy. I was, yeah, definitely depressed. Lots of anxiety. I did have a really good career at that time. I was in the trades doing electrical, and the anxiety kept me engaged with always moving forward and making sure my bills were paid. Um, and I had some really amazing, teachers that were in the trades. The baby boomers. They were looking to retire. They're in their 60s and 50s and 60s at that time, and really just engaging. And they had so much to share, but at that time, being depressed and having anxiety, self-medicating, in and out of the doctor's office. Some days when I'd show up to work, it was me looking at them, and some of those baby boomers were not the healthiest either. I had one mentor, he smoked all the time, was just bitter and miserable. And, they had the nice cars, had the nice houses, they had a nice family and everything, but showing up to work every day and being miserable, and, they had their own emotional stuff they worked through. It kind of, it triggered me. And I was already, going downhill, being in and out of the doctor's office. I couldn't control my emotions, self-medicating. And plus, I was beginning a career in electrical, and I was looking at the end goal of like, okay, well, when I retire, when I'm 50 or 60, do I want to be miserable? Do I want to be unhappy? Yeah, sure. I got the material objects, and that's fine. But there's more. There's more to life, right? There's way more than to just have things and not be fulfilled on a deeper level. And so that's what kind of triggered me to say I need to make a change.
Hmm. So what did you end up doing? What did the change look like?
Lots of study, lots of self-study.
Mm.
Yeah, research, study. I got into yoga. I got into some different information around traditional Chinese medicine. I started to do lots of meditation. And so I really took up lots of different spiritual practices, and also researching lots about, different herbs, different supplements that I could, take to support the body to reverse anxiety. But what I really found was, yeah, the practices, the ability to, dive into an emotion and start to uncover it and discover the roots of it. And so with that, all that studying, I was still working in electrical. My time off, I would spend as much time as I can to, research. I was always researching. And eventually, that it started to alleviate the anxiety, the tension. I felt better. I felt more motivated. And at some point, I was like, I still have a lot of questions in life. And unfortunately, I don't know anyone that could answer it efficiently. And so I decided to work as much as I can, build up a whole bunch of finances. And I actually ended up going to on a vacation down to Central South America. I wanted to work with different indigenes, different shamans, and ask the questions, the life questions that I had.
Hmm.
And I got so I got a lot of information that way. I ended up taking some plant medicines, doing some ceremonies, and so that's kind of what it looked like for me at that time. Now I realize once I did all those things, I didn't need to do plant medicines. It basically taught me the same thing that hypnotherapy was teaching me, how to just tune into the body and really dive into those certain emotions and deal with them.
Hmm.
And so yeah, that's it in the basics.
I mean, that's interesting. I'd like to hear about the plant medicines maybe next time, but
Sure.
so I have two more things that I want to ask you.
Sure.
So let's see. So share with me something that you're working on improving and how you think uh, your work and your health, maybe mental health will as well, will be better once you've accomplished it.
Yeah, it's always a ongoing process. And now what I know is I will never stop doing self-study, and I will never stop engaging in personal growth, because the distance I've already accomplished in growth, it has been phenomenal. Being able to, and one of the main things that I really wanted to do, my goal was to quit tobacco, quit marijuana, quit all drugs, quit alcohol, and be completely sober. Because in my 20s, I didn't know what sober felt like. There was not one day for years that I knew what sober felt like. And so that was my accomplishment, knowing what truly being sober feels like while also feeling good. Because all the emotions within me, it was so uncomfortable, so painful, that I needed outside substances just to make me feel good. And so that was my goal, and I accomplished that. So I mean, that was the first milestone. Now I just have this amazing taste for the highest level of fulfillment, passion, purpose, excitement. I'm every day I have my 1 hour practices that I get into and I pursue, and every day I can just know that I'm getting better and better. And honestly, and as I was mentioning before, I changed more in 5 months than I did in 5 years when I ended up taking hypnotherapy sessions from another person. Now I look back and that the bell curve is increasing. I'm changing more in 1 month than I am in 2 years. It's exceptional. Like once you get the tools and know the tools, know how to work through them, it is mind blowing. Like I gone through the most growth I've ever gone through in this last year. It's been absolutely phenomenal. And I kind of have a sense, like I always love the idea of enlightenment, to being liberated, because I mean at that time, the beginning stages I got into spiritual practices, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, go see a guru in India and meditate with them, and have all these questions I could ask them and get this information. And I'm happy I didn't do that. And I'm sure they would have told me the exact same as what I know now. It's like, oh, you got to do your own inner work.
Mhm.
Everyone has this unique way of what they need to know, and this unique journey that they're on. And so my goal is to, just keep elevating to newer and newer and newer levels. And my hypnotherapy practice, the next milestone I want to get to is to fully shift from doing one-on-one hypnotherapy sessions to more teaching a course, a 7-week transformational course with all the techniques, all the tools, all the education that I know that's practical and that can help someone shift. I've actually created it last year. It just came together, and it was kind of this in the back of the mind for many years. I was like, yeah, I kind of want to do this. I have a good feeling that I want to teach these things, and you have something I could give someone, like a book or a course, and just here, this is everything you need to know to empower yourself. And last year it just spewed out of me. It was like all this information. It's like my subconscious was processing, accumulating, and it's just working things out, clicking things in. And then when it was time, it was just, just all this information was just spewing out of me, writing on paper, doing PowerPoint presentations. And so my next milestone, I want to have this educational foundation, like a personal development, but more so about the subconscious. Everything you need to know about the subconscious to help reprogram yourself completely, fully, at your own time, with all the tools. And of course, I'll be there for support and everything. So that's my next milestone, and I'm actually getting there. And then my ultimate milestone is completely being liberated and enlightened. I have a good sense. I know what that is. I need to do to get there, and now it's just a matter of doing the inner work.
Okay, so one just curious question. And so when you say liberated, is that like enlightenment? Are you talking about maybe like just not being attached to anything? Is that kind of the same vein?
Yeah, exactly. Not being attached and being so centered into your core, and knowing how everything is a reflection of who you are, and not reacting to anything either. So just being so stable and in your own creative, conscious intention, and knowing how strong and powerful you can be by being in your true core, not having anything around you that triggers you at all. It's just like you're just full of bliss and peace all the time, because like that's the best emotion that's going to make you feel fulfilled. And so I mean that's part of it, fulfillment for, I do want to output and offer, humanity something greater. So being in bliss and teaching people how to be in that bliss. So liberated, and also the understanding and not having any tension in the body, because
Mhm.
I learned that tension is, it's unprocessed emotions, or it's emotions that are causing the body harm. Too much tension, will cause our body to go out of alignment. And so no tension, but just strength, muscular strength is, I mean, it's the goal. Because studying different indigenes and shamans, the ability to channel in energy is to not have any restriction in your body. And I had the opportunity to study with a 105-year-old shaman, like 105-year-old, and he had more energy than I did. He was just bright. His
Hmm.
energy was just so ignited, and I was like, he's 105. I mean, you could tell he was 105. Like he had, and people were, there to be with him and everything. But when he was in, going through ceremony, and when he was teaching, like, wow, like
Hmm.
I want to be 105 in his state. And the amount of energy that was surging through him, it's one thing. I don't know if you ever experienced Reiki or energy healing at all. uh People are able to channel through energy, and it's very healing, love energy.
Mhm.
His energy was more like this electric blast of energy, and it was like,
Hmm.
okay, there's something to this guy. I was a little bit skeptical, but I'm like, oh no, there's something to it. And that was, the understanding of zero tension, no restriction of energy, having all your meridian systems fully free of, so it can circulate efficiently. And that's when your body will harmonize. That's when your body will be in perfect health. Your immune system will be blasted upwards, be the strongest it can ever be, and your body can actually regenerate efficiently. Yeah,
So
just
no like inner conflict.
no inner conflict, zero,
Yeah,
none at all.
because that definitely, yeah, I've heard that described before as like you have your foot on the gas and your foot on the brakes at the same time, and it's just like super draining, right?
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't work that well.
But yeah, so where can people find you?
Yeah, right now I've been so focused on helping clients out, and as well as building up a course. So I don't really have a social media presence too much. Um, People can find me on my Facebook page, my own personal Facebook page, Michael van Soest. And I'm sure there'll be a link or, a description. I can share the name. Also, my website, consciousharmonics.ca. And where else? I'm just starting to get a YouTube channel up more once I have all the information, the course is fully upgraded and done. I'll be able to put more energy to a YouTube channel. And so that will probably be my main social media that I really, output. But for now, yeah, Facebook, email, michael@consciousharmonics.ca. They can check out my website. I have lots of information there, and they can also book a call through my website link.
Okay. And how long would you say do you expect before you release your course?
I've already gone through 4 rounds of it. So 7 weeks. I've had 4 intimate groups of people. I'm just about to do another round of it in about 2 weeks from now. So the second week of February. And that, yeah, I'm actually just finishing up a promo page, more legitimized promo page. But the course, I've done a lot of upgrades as I kind of gone through with the intimate people, really connecting with them and learning how they could get better results. And so I will have another opportunity for another intimate group, maybe 8 or 10 people to go through the course. And that will be, available anytime from this point going forward. And so definitely lots of opportunity.
All right. Well, thank you for talking to me today, Michael.
You're very welcome. Yeah, it's great connecting with you, Connor. Thank you so much for, doing an amazing talk show.
All right. All the best to you.
Blessings. Thank you.